Elizabeth Montgomery wasn't just the sweet witch Samantha who twitched her nose. Beneath that mask lay a woman full of trauma, hiding Hollywood's darkest secrets. On-screen magic couldn't fix her real nightmares. On February 2nd, 2026, when she took her last breath at 92, the world lost not just a TV icon, but the final witness to a life full of scandal, betrayal, and repressed desires. Welcome to Iconic Lives. Today we go where the magic ends and the brutal truth begins. Born into the golden cage of Beverly Hills, her father, legendary actor Robert Montgomery, was both an idol and a warden. Growing up in the shadow of a narcissist obsessed with perfection opened incurable wounds in Elizabeth's soul. Love was a reward given only for success. This emotional neglect laid the foundation for the toxic relationships she would form with men later. She remained a little girl seeking her father's approval until that search dragged her into the wrong beds. Her youth was a silent rebellion against her father's suffocating control. Acting was an escape route, not a passion. Impulsive early marriages were attempts to leave that golden cage, but each time she was trapped in a tighter cell. Her first husband was a socialite playboy, the second an alcoholic actor. While searching for love, Elizabeth was actually choosing men who were the exact opposite of her father. These choices brought her to the gates of Hollywood's corrupt underworld. When Bewitched started in 1964, the world found its new sweetheart. The role of Samantha Stevens brought immense fame, but became her biggest curse. She was a submissive housewife trapped in suburbia, using her powers only to please her husband. This role was an insult to the wild nature inside Elizabeth. While smiling at millions every week, she secretly hated that good witch image. She shined under set lights, but her soul was slowly rotting in that flawless fake kitchen. Her marriage to the show's director and third husband, William Asher, was a complex mix of professional success and personal disaster. Asher was both her boss on set and husband in the bedroom. This power imbalance poisoned the relationship. Elizabeth was crushed under Asher's controlling nature. Their life offset was a minefield filled with cheating and betrayal. Asher's infidelity fed the deep insecurity inside Elizabeth and eventually pushed her toward her own forbidden pursuits. Behind the curtains of the Bewitched set, a sexual revolution that Samantha would never approve of was taking place. Elizabeth answered her husband's betrayals with her own escapades. Her illicit affairs with co-stars and male crew members were Hollywood's worst-kept secrets. These flings were not just revenge. They were the expression of her repressed sexuality and years of control. She was protesting her squeaky clean screen image in dirty sheets, breaking every single rule. The biggest scandal was the alleged passionate affair with the second Darren, Dick Sargent. Sargent was known to be gay, which made the relationship even more complex and taboo. This was not just cheating. It was a challenge to the sexual norms of the era. The tension on set reached unbearable levels. With her husband Asher in the director's chair, this dangerous intimacy Elizabeth had with her leading man was one of the dynamites that brought the show to its bitter end. When the show ended and she divorced Asher, Elizabeth vowed to kill Samantha. Playing axe murderer Lizzie Borden in 1975 was the boldest and most shocking move of her career. The woman who twitched her cute nose was now slaughtering her family with a bloody axe. This role was therapy for her. She was vomiting out the anger she had accumulated for years and her hatred for her father, husbands, and the industry. Viewers were horrified, but Elizabeth finally felt she could breathe. Throughout the 70s and 80s, she became the dark queen of television. She played rape victims, killers, and psychopaths. Every role she chose was a reflection of the darkness inside her. However, her professional courage could not hide the chaos in her private life. Her fourth marriage was to Robert Foxworth, but peace was far from her. Alcohol use increased. Depression bouts became frequent. Behind those bright blue eyes lay a deep well of unhappiness no one was allowed to see. Behind Hollywood's glittering parties, Elizabeth's name began to be associated with dark figures. Her close friendships with individuals alleged to be linked to drug trafficking and organized crime were on the radar of the tabloids. She never faced a formal charge, but these dangerous flirtations were part of her desire to take risks and her tendency to self-sabotage. Her clean image was slowly being stained by these underground connections, adding a layer of grit to her legacy. By the early 90s, her body began to betray her. When the first cancer diagnosis was made, she kept it a secret. She tried to defeat the disease through denial, just like her emotional pains. She was a warrior, and showing weakness was not in her book. Rumors spread that she refused treatments and sought healing through alternative medicine or even occult methods. This stubbornness was her survival mechanism, but it was also preparing her for a slow, painful, and inevitable end. By the 2000s, Elizabeth Montgomery had almost turned into a recluse. She locked herself in her Beverly Hills mansion. On the rare occasions she was seen, she was unrecognizable, exhibiting excessive plastic surgeries and strange behaviors. Neighbors whispered about screams coming from the house late at night and bizarre rituals. Samantha's magic had completely disappeared, leaving its place to an old age full of paranoia and fear. She was now the lead actress in her own horror movie. In 2015, when she was in her 80s, her name was involved in one last major scandal. Allegations of an exploitative relationship with a man 50 years her junior and financial fraud dominated headlines. Was Elizabeth a manipulated elderly victim or a predator still playing games? The truth was never fully illuminated, but this event was proof that the chaos in her life would never end. Even in her final years, peace was forbidden to her, and the tabloids feasted on her misery. Her final years were a painful chronology of physical and mental collapse. The cancer had returned, spreading throughout her entire body this time. But Elizabeth did not let anyone see her suffer. Even when she became bedridden, she kept that famous stubbornness. The curtains of her room were always closed. She did not want sunlight to illuminate that sunken expression, once one of the most beautiful faces in the world. She chose to live and die in absolute darkness and silence. And finally, that day came, February 2nd, 2026. While the world continued to turn outside, Elizabeth Montgomery took her last breath in a foggy peace given by morphine in her Los Angeles home. Only a few loyal employees and the ghosts of the past were by her side. Her death was not as complex as her life. It was quiet, lonely, and inevitable. Samantha Stevens' iconic nose stopped for the last time, and one of the biggest chapters in television history closed forever in silence. Immediately after her death, diaries and letters kept hidden for years were spilled out. These documents detailed the sexual traumas she experienced, the complex incest-bordering relationship with her father, and how she was exploited by Hollywood's powerful men. The fact that the sweet witch was actually a victim shocked her fans. She was a woman crying blood behind a smiling mask, and her true story was far more tragic and disturbing than any role she had ever played. Elizabeth Montgomery's legacy is not just the reruns of Bewitched, but a brutal reminder of the price of fame. She was both a product and a victim of a patriarchal system. She used her sexuality as a weapon and a shield, but eventually she was crushed under her own desires and fears. Her life was the perfect example of the rot beneath the glittering surface of Hollywood. She was not a woman who could perform magic, just a human trying desperately to survive the nightmare. Today, we look not at Samantha's magical world, but at Elizabeth's private hell. This icon, who left us on February 2nd, 2026, left behind unanswered questions and broken hearts. Her story teaches us that the perfection we see on screen is often a big lie. When the lights go out, even the most powerful witches are left alone with their own demons. As iconic lives, we will continue to illuminate the dark side of the truth. Until the next tragic story, take care and goodbye.